Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. So this week I wanted to talk about my experience about kind of projecting my own insecurities and emotions, I guess, onto other people. And I've experienced doing this throughout a lot of my life, and I think it kind of ruined a lot of relationships for me. More in the sense where like I would kind of like distance myself because of this preconceived notion of the other person, but I created this preconceived notion by projecting my own insecurities into that person. I'll try to explain this because I feel like it doesn't make sense the way I'm saying it. Basically, like there'll be people, and I will like kind of judge them in a sense, saying like things like, they're better than me, they're more popular than me, they're richer than me, they're whatever more than me. And I always think like they probably don't like me because of whatever reason. And because of these like thoughts, I kind of convince myself that they don't like me or I'm not good enough for them or something, when they have never said anything to suggest any of these things. But I've convinced myself of these things. And that kind of like creates this like wall between us, this distance between us. And I created that in my head. And that's something I experienced so many times while growing up. And I didn't realize how many people actually do that. I've spoken to several people about this because I've had like in the last couple years I've kind of had some like experiences that really opened my eyes. So when I shared this to other people, they told me that they've done the same thing, and it's just really sad that we do this as people. So I wanted to share some of my experiences. So I'll just share two experiences that I've had with this, and how it sort of compares to the actual reality in the situation, and what I've sort of learned from this. And my goal for today's one is just to encourage anyone who may be listening to not do this as much as possible, but also just to try and be a bit more like realistic, I guess. Like don't do this. Really, you'll have a better time in life if you don't do this. So the first experience was in high school, actually. So when I was in high school, I did not have a very good high school experience. So I kind of like blocked out a lot of my memories of high school. And I think it was last year. Yeah, last year, someone from high school like added me on Facebook again, and I honestly thought I already had them on Facebook. So when they added me, I was just like, "Did you make a new account?" And they were like, "No," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I guess maybe I didn't have them, but anyway, he was like kind of like reminiscing about our art class in high school, and I like at first I wasn't like sure what he was talking about. I was just like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't have that great of an experience. I don't know what you're talking about. But then like he went into it a bit, and eventually I remembered what he was talking about, and it was actually a good memory. I just like blocked out the entirety of high school, so I couldn't remember like majority of things. But then I remembered it. Like we actually used to have like fun together in class, because there was only like 6 people in my art class, and me and him and then one other person, we used to just like sit. There was really only just like 2 groups of 3 that sat next to each other and just like talked. So we used to talk a lot while working on our art, and it was actually really fun. But I completely forgot about that. And something that he said, actually before I get into that, what I used to think of him, because he was like someone that was just like, he was pretty cool. He was pretty much like liked by like everyone. He was like into like sports, and he just seemed like someone that was just like, I used to see him as just someone way above me. He seemed so cool. I felt like I was way below him. And I always thought like he was like friends with me in class because I was like one of the only people he could be friends with in class. That's how I used to see it. So I just thought like I was just his friend for art class, and then if there were any other options, he would choose them. And he, like what he said to me kind of like opened my eyes a bit. He was just like, don't you remember we used to be really good friends? And I was just like, we were good friends? I don't remember that. And he's like, yeah, in art class. And And then like he kept like bringing up all these like things from the past that I forgot about, and I was just like, wow, I completely forgot about all of this. I didn't tell him this, but like in my head, I was just like, I completely forgot all of this. Were we actually friends? And I realized like the way we perceived each other was so different. He saw me as one of his friends, and I saw him as someone who was just like way above me that just needed someone to pass the time with during art class or something like that. And I realized like I wanted to be friends with him, but I couldn't see us as actually being friends because I was really projecting my insecurity of who I was onto him. I saw him as like someone who was like way above me, and myself as someone just way below everyone else. And I projected this like feeling onto him, and then I convinced myself that he didn't really like genuinely like me. And I realized like that really ruined my relationship with him like later on. Like in the beginning, like during high school it was fine, but I didn't stay in touch with him because of that. I just assumed that we weren't friends anymore, so I just let the relationship like dissolve. So I'm really thankful that he reached out to me again and we became friends again. So last year it was actually fortunate because he wanted to catch up, but I told him like, I'm in Korea now, so it's really hard. But it was actually like a month before I went back to visit Australia. So I told him that, and then when I went back to Australia, we caught up again, and it's really cool. Like we're actually friends now, and we stay in touch and everything. So when I go back next year, I'm probably gonna hang out with him sometimes. So that was something that was like really shocking for me. And then the second time was in university. I became friends with this Korean international student, and he just like, when I saw him, I couldn't believe he was talking to me. I felt like, because my insecurity was really really bad. I think like I've improved on it now, but at that time I used to see myself as like the ugliest, the fattest, the most disgusting person in the world. Like that's how I used to see myself. And I'm not like that anymore. I have a lot more of a healthy relationship with myself now, but I used to see myself that way. And he looks like really good looking, and he's very rich, and he just so, when you see him, he just had this like aura of being like from another world. And it was just like something that I couldn't comprehend. And when he first started talking to me, I couldn't believe that he was talking to me. I was just like, why are you talking to me? Like, do you need something from me or something? But then we ended up becoming friends, and there was a couple times where I couldn't stay at my house. Like there's one time my house got fumigated so I had to like stay somewhere else for a night. Like there was another time something else happened. So there was a couple times where I was like homeless for a night. I wasn't homeless, but I was like homeless for a night. So like if like worst case scenario, I just have to go to my family's home, which was like an hour away, and it would have meant that I would have had to come back to school, like take an hour trip. Like that's not that bad, but I'd rather not. So all those times when it happened, he let me stay at his house. And I remember there was one time where he was like, he has this massive bed. Like he had like this like nook in his like studio apartment that was like basically his bedroom, but his bed was like this, like pretty much the entire size of it. It was massive. And when I stayed over, he said like, he offered me to like stay in his bed, like sleep there, which was like, this is not even a problem. But I felt like I was like such a massive burden on him that I just said no. And I'll get into the reality stuff of it later, but he was offering, and he was genuinely offering, but I saw myself as like just such a burden, and I was gonna like, it was so bad, like the way I saw myself. And because of that, I decided to just sleep on the floor on his rug. And that was so uncomfortable. And I did that every time I slept over. I just slept on his rug on the floor because I felt horrible. And looking back at it now, it's really bad. Like it's almost like I'm seeing myself as like a dog or something. Because like, who sleeps on a rug? It was like, oh, so bad. Especially when he was offering as well. So I used to see him as like also not as my friend. I mean, I wanted to be friends. I really wanted to be friends with him, and I always felt like I was just a burden on him, or he just wanted like me to like help him with school stuff or whatever. And I did it because I wanted to be his friend. So I always felt I just didn't feel good. I felt like I felt like extra ugly and extra like low as a person, and it was just like it was just such a toxic way to think. But he's back in Korea at the moment, and we caught up several times. But there was one time where we kind of I kind of like told him about this, and he had no idea because I wanted to tell him about like my anxiety and depression issues that like when it was at its peak was when I was friends with him. So I kind of wanted to see like how he perceived me when I was going through that. So I shared about that with him, and when I told him about these things that I just shared with you guys, he he told me that he always thought we were friends, and he liked me, and I always said like I told him like the things I used to think of myself, and he was like, I never thought those of you, and it was just so shocking for me to just hear his side of it. And then like I kind of like shared with him like what my mindset was when like I decided to sleep on the floor, or when I acted like this, or when I did this. And he was shocked by that because he just never expected that that's what I was going through. And it was shocking for me to hear like how he was thinking. Like he genuinely wanted to be my friend, and he really liked me and everything, and I couldn't fathom that at the time. Now like I have a lot healthier of a mindset, so I can I can see that he's actually my friend. I realized like this toxic mindset that I had, and this toxic view of myself, I really projected that onto him, and I accepted that as fact, even though he never ever said anything that like alluded to that being anything near truth. And that's just a horrible thing to do to myself, I guess. So I realized like I didn't really ruin these relationships, but I kind of like created like a barrier or a distance between these people because of these projections that I made onto them. So that's something that I hugely regret, and I wish that I never did that. But at the same time, it's a learning experience, and I don't think I'd be who I am if it wasn't for that. I do wish that I could not do that ever in the future. I don't know. I'm hoping that I don't do that in the future. I think I do still suffer from it a little bit, but not to the extreme of these stories that I just shared. But yeah, I'm really hoping that none of you guys ever do this, because it's really horrible, and it really just like ruins your relationships. You can have really good friendships with people if you don't do this. I know you just got to give people a try. One of the things I've come to learn is that everyone is insecure about something. So when I was like insecure about myself, he was also insecure about himself, and he like as low as I saw myself, he saw himself as that low as well, and that was shocking for me to hear. And even now, he's still kind of insecure about things, while I'm also insecure about things. So we're all insecure about stuff. So while you might see someone as like this like amazing person who's like so far above you, they probably see themselves as a lot lower than you think of them. So don't put people on this pedestal. Don't put them so far above you, or even just above themselves. Like try to just get to know them and let them get to know you. But yeah, thank you so much for listening today. I'm trying to make these podcasts a little bit shorter, because I think they used to be around like 40 minutes, and it takes a long time to edit doing that, and I feel like it's just like too long to listen to. So I want to try to aim between like 10 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna try my best. They might be longer when I have guests on it, but when I'm by myself, I'm gonna aim for 10 to 20 minutes. So yeah, thank you for listening. I hope this helps whoever, if you're going through this stuff. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear me talk about, and yeah, that's it for today. So I'll see you in the next podcast. Bye.